Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore are being exposed for their connection to Diddy, and allegedly Ashton Kutcher is getting ready to testify in front of a grand jury in Diddy's upcoming federal trial. Exclusive intel has been leaked by Fox News, and it's shocking.
You got Ashton Kutcher in love with Mila Kunis on that 70s show. Then they break up for absolutely no reason after he starts hanging out with Diddy. Then he marries Demi Moore, who drained him of all the adrenochrome she can, and apparently he replenished himself by doing inappropriate things with their daughters. I'm glad. I'm sure you're glad, like Bruce Willis has dementia right now.
Demi Moore was abused as a child by her mother, and according to Demi, her mother even sold her to a man for $500. This experience destroyed Moore's confidence and sent her down a spiral where she became an abuser herself. It's terrifying how someone who had been abused themselves could go on to be friends with Diddy, a man that everyone in the industry knew was involved in trafficking minors.
Now to Demi Moore. She revealed in her memoir that she was sexually assaulted at the age of 15, writing that her mother let the abuser in their home. Well, today, Demi talked to Howard Stern more about this on his Sirius XM radio show.
But you say you pushed it away. You don't need, you just
I
recently.
pushed it away because I felt like it was my fault. Like I felt like I had behaved in a way that was
provocative
and mature, like I really knew a lot. And I never really looked at myself as being a kid. And so I never looked at it as right. I mean, I saw it as an unfortunate and,
Yet he forced you into this.
I was very embarrassed by it. In all honesty, I think that the shame I carried because of the rape made me afraid to feel I could comfortably express myself sexually.
It makes me just remember the conversation that I had with her where she talked about the purpose of her writing this book was to share her story in hopes that it would empower other young women. She did talk about a lot of other things to Howard Stern. She said she auditioned for Top Gun, obviously didn't get the part, but would later work with Tom Cruise as a co-star in A Few Good Men.
Hollywood is a disgusting place where not even parents are looking out for their children. In exchange for fame and a better career, parents let their children be abused. Usher, Demi Moore, Justin Bieber, and even Davy Chase were all abused in Hollywood, and allegedly, their parents knew this was happening. In some cases, parents actually gave their children to these abusers so they could be close to the biggest names in the industry.
As an anxious teen, she is taken by her mother to bars so that men will notice them. She's 15 when she comes home one night and an older man they know is in the apartment with the key. She writes, it was rape and a devastating betrayal, revealed by the man's cruel question, how does it feel to be whored by your mother for $500?
Do you believe she sold you?
I think in my deep heart, no. I don't think it was a straightforward transaction, but she still did give him the access and put me in harm's way.
Demi Moore has been caught on tape having inappropriate relations with minors. A recently resurfaced video has drawn attention to Demi Moore, which shows her kissing her former General Hospital co-star, Philip Tanzini, and despite being married at the time to Freddie Moore.
Okay, one more time.
Why do you think everybody's come out?
I don't know. Maybe just because I love them all and I hope they all love me.
We do love him.
And I love them.
If you think it's for the publicity, you're out of your mind.
Absolutely, because he's one of my most favorite people.
Have you been working on the show?
Almost a month and a half.
What's your role?
I'm Miss Mila.
Now I'm Philip Tanzini, and I play Jeremy, and you're stealing my part. I'm sorry.
We're moving on to interview number 2 here.
Oh, okay.
Because I love Philip, and he's the only one I love.
Do your interview already.
All right. I'm looks in love, but personally, I love Philip, and that's it. Okay.
We got our new storyline cooking up pretty soon. Have a bite.
I want to say happy birthday to Philip because I love him dearly. He's one of my most favorite people.
How long have you known Philip?
For about 3 weeks, and he's been terrific.
Yeah, she's great.
Demi Moore's ex-husband, Ashton Kutcher, is allegedly ready to expose everyone that was involved with Diddy, including his ex-wife. Recently, in an episode of the PBD podcast, Fox News host Jesse Waters said that Fox News had received credible intel that Ashton Kutcher was getting ready to testify against Diddy and had agreed to cooperate with the feds. There are rumors that Ashton was caught on Diddy's tapes, and he's worried about ending up in jail.
Used for blackmail material. They'd bring in these people. A lot of these people were also aspiring young artists in the music industry. And then these parties were sponsored by Motown Records CEO, Universal Records CEO. This goes all the way to the top. And so you get these people in compromising situations. The drinks were laced. The videotapes were hot. And then at the end of the day, you wake up the next morning, what did I do? And then they have compromising material on you. And then they can guide your career. They could kill your career, but they got you. And it wasn't just people in the music business. As you said, there were athletes, there were celebrities, there were politicians, people from the royal family. And we were also told by the former bodyguard that Diddy was an FBI informant. Whoa. So he was a snitch and was feeding information to the feds. And we don't know what that means. We haven't been able to confirm it, but even Little Rod said it's not just like Epstein. It could be worse than Jeffrey Epstein.
I've been on FBI raids where I've seen things that no person should ever see. I've seen video content of a child that's the same age as mine being raped by an American man that was a sex tourist in Cambodia. And this child was so conditioned by her environment that she thought she was engaging in play. But the right to pursue happiness for so many is stripped away. It's raped. It's abused. It's taken by force, fraud, or coercion. It is sold for the momentary happiness of another.
Wow, okay, I've got a lot I can't tell. So, I can't tell that one either. I mean, I'm like actually cycling through them. There was one moment, so it's not really a party story, but our relationship was really bizarre. So it started over punked, because he was like, yo,
don't punk
you
me.
can't punk me. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Everybody's on the table. He's like, not me, I'm off the table. And so that started our conversation. We became fast friends, and we used to just hang out, watch football together.
Demi Moore is just one of the celebrities that might end up in jail if Diddy is convicted. Federal prosecutor Niema Rahmani said that Jay-Z is only the first person to get sued in connection to Diddy. And in federal cases of this scale, it's only a matter of time before other names get involved. Additionally, other victims might also come forward.
So that's that. Now, as far as Jay-Z is concerned, this can really go one of two ways. This might be an isolated one-off case that he has to defend, or potentially it could be a Me Too type situation where other victims come forward. Obviously, we saw that with Diddy and Cassie Ventura. So the coming days and weeks are really going to be telling. And Tony Busby says he has more than 100, maybe up to 300 victims he's representing. So it's going to be interesting to see if any of them also name Jay-Z.
And Nima, if such a high-profile name like Jay-Z has come out, could more celebrity names be tied to these lawsuits? What do you think we can expect?
No question. This may just be the first celebrity domino, and Jay-Z was unmasked as celebrity A, but let's not forget there's a celebrity B in that same lawsuit that allegedly witnessed the sexual assault, a female celebrity. And there was someone who went on CNN earlier this week and said that his sexual assault was witnessed by another celebrity as well. So I think we're going to see more celebrity names identified very soon.
All right, Nima Rani, thank you so much for joining us. As you said, this is one that has entered the court of public opinion. It's nice to have your actual legal advice on this one.
Jennifer Lopez is another name that has come up in connection to Diddy. Derek Lee Cardello Smith is a victim that claims Diddy raped him in 1997 assault during a party at a Holiday Inn in Detroit, where Cardello Smith was a bartender. According to Cardello, Diddy recorded the alleged sexual assault, and J-Lo was shown the footage. Despite knowing what had happened with Cardello, J-Lo didn't go to the authorities or try to help him in any way.
But going back to Cardello Smith's filing, his notice says that Jennifer Lynn Lopez, a.k.a. J-Lo, a.k.a. Jenny from the Block, quote, will be called as a material witness and expert to Sean Combs' viewing, possession, and distribution of his sexual assault upon the plaintiff in 1997 and the orders of defendant Sean Combs forcing Jennifer Lopez to remain silent about the videotaped sexual assault of plaintiff by defendant. Plaintiff states that the material witness Jennifer Lynn Lopez, also known as J-Lo and Jenny from the Block, was engaged in a relationship with the defendant Sean Combs during 1999 and 2001, and that the sexual assault of the plaintiff was recorded, distributed, and held by the defendant at his New York residence and recording studio. And during the relationship with Jennifer Lopez, she was made privy to this video that was taken by Sean Combs and his employee Kirk Burrows. She, J-Lo, has known this video existed and was in existence and took no action to make it known to anyone in law enforcement, and that she was even questioned by New York Police Detective Derek Palmer about this matter, and that the report will show that her answers to this tape was and still remains a resounding yes to its existence. And again, Cardello Smith writes that he wants to call Officer Derek Palmer as a witness because he says Palmer is the one who questioned Lopez and believes that he will have testimony that could help his case. Now, as I mentioned, Diddy's legal team has called for this entire case to be thrown out. Cardello Smith has filed a massive response to that request that totaled more than 200 pages. Probably half of it was just straight up copies of case law that seems to support his arguments, word for word. It's something out of like a legal textbook. There's so much to slog through, but I kind of want to give you some of the highlights. So first, in addition to the claims of rape and a cover-up, Cardello Smith also claims and alleges that Combs was violent towards his loved ones. At times, Cardello Smith addresses alleged threats against his family. Other times, he says Combs actually caused serious injuries to his brother. His response reads, defendant used threats of murder to force the plaintiff to not bring the case to any court of law enforcement until the homes of the defendant were raided by Homeland Security, that the plaintiff knew it was a safe time to bring the case, and that is why we are here at this juncture. And Cardello Smith argued that fear for his own safety and the safety of his family is one of the main reasons that he waited so long to report the alleged rape, and says that that reason alone should override any issue with the statute of limitations, that these claims might otherwise be time barred. And he also argues that while he's been in prison, fellow inmates and prison guards have threatened him on behalf of Sean Combs.
3 other men have also come forward with stories that match the same pattern of abuse Diddy is now known for. Allegedly, Diddy invited one of these men to his parties, where he was drugged and raped. This man claims that for Diddy, this was less about sexual attraction and more about power. Diddy wanted to dominate him, and he drugged him so he wouldn't be able to fight back. This is something that we have seen in other cases too.
So why did you believe in these cases, and why didn't you believe in others that you were presented with?
Well, the thing with a abuser, a sexual abuser, is they follow a pattern. They fall to type, and you become very clear on what that pattern is, particularly a serial sexual abuser. And these cases were all identical in the facts, identical in the story. It was beginning, middle, conclusion.
They know each other?
Boom. None of them knew each other.
Did you have them meet?
No.
Did you have them coordinate stories?
No, no.
Do you think they had any contact with each other before they came to you?
Absolutely not.
And when you were talking to them, well, first, the ones that you didn't take, why not?
Stories didn't make sense. Stories didn't fit the pattern. Stories were not credible. I mean, this is my 30th year as a lawyer. I've tried over 100 cases. I can assess whether somebody's story is credible. And if I don't believe it, I'm not going to put my name on a pleading, sign it, and file it in court. I'm not doing that. And that's what I did with the 60-plus cases that I rejected.
And this is not really your area of expertise. If people look you up, celebrity lawsuits is not really where you make your bones. Why this?
Well, I have handled, I was involved in the Weinstein litigation, right. I was involved in the Paducah litigation, I was involved in the Hayden litigation. Why did I do this? I do this because it's important. I think it's important for people to be heard, have their chance to get the power back. Because sexual abuse, sexual assault is about one thing, taking power, humiliating, demeaning a person and a victim. It has nothing to do with sex. And so I think it's important. I think it's important to get the word out. I think it's important for men to feel, hey, look, I can come out and be heard just like a woman could.
And the defense that, look, they knew what they were getting into. These are regrets. They went there, they partied, and now they see a pocket.
No, I don't think so. One, my client
was... Were they gay men?
One was bisexual, the other ones were not. And they were going there. The client who was bisexual worked for Diddy. Diddy owed him money for doing errands for him and being his step and fetch, for lack of a better word. And I think it was a power move. It was a clear power move because this guy had the nerve to come to him and say, you owe me money. And so Diddy said, come on to the Intercontinental Hotel. He gives him the drug, knocks him out, sodomizes him. And I won't use the term that my client used, but I will. He said he tried to turn me into his B word. And I think it was a clear power move on each and every occasion. I think the ones that took place in the Park Hyatt, that wasn't partying. My client met him at a nightclub in the city here with a music producer. He didn't think he was getting into that. The man who was raped in the Hamptons, he thought he was going to a white party. Who wouldn't want to go to a white party? I would have gone to a white party back in the day. I wouldn't go now. But they went there innocently, and this is what happened to them.
I never went. I appreciate you very much. We will follow the cases.
One of the police officers who was involved in the raid on Diddy's house has also come forward. And allegedly, the officers think Diddy is worse than Jeffrey Epstein. Baby oil and drugs weren't the only things present at Diddy's house, and the officers had to use lethal force for a reason. Diddy is a danger to everyone around him.
These ladies at a party, for years, P. Diddy's gotten a hall pass. He's actually created his own kingdom where he makes his own rules, and you got to follow his rules or you get penalized. And guess what, Laura? He's now in a federal penitentiary, and for the first time in his life, he's facing his own fate at the hands of somebody else. And I will tell you, Laura, I've done federal cases, that's not the place you want to be in federal court. 90% of federal criminal indictments brought down are pled out, right? A plea deal is brought. And of the only 10% left, 90% of those defendants that go to trial, they lose. So he is looking at a daunting uphill battle to fight these horrible charges.
Now, Brian, one of the DHS agents involved in this raid on his Miami mansion described what he saw inside the house, saying that, in my opinion, he's as bad as Epstein. These women are young, either barely legal or barely illegal. Brian, this sounds like he was a monster.
Yeah, Laura, I will tell you that this indictment was very detailed, by the way, too. Your viewers should know there were over 300 subpoenas served, over 50 witnesses interviewed. Why is that important? Because the federal prosecutors aren't going to be leveling an indictment like this unless they have ammunition and they have cause to bring it. And the core issue at this case, which the feds have to prove, which it's looking like they can, is that P. Diddy essentially controlled these women, that he threatened them with stopping the money that he was paying them, that he spiked their drinks with drugs. That's been alleged in the indictment. And that he basically told them, I'm going to ruin your life unless you engage in these freak-offs. And that's really what the prosecutors got to prove. And if you've got some victims coming forward to talk about that, you've got financial records that prove that, travel itinerary that proves that, P. Diddy has very little defense. And I got to tell you, Laura, if this guy wants to fight these charges, he's going to have to step up and walk into a courtroom and talk about it. If he doesn't testify in this case, he is dead on arrival.
Well, who else is on these tapes? I mean, will the tapes ever see the light of day? I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. Who else is there? It's like with the Epstein, his pleasure island. Who else? Who went? Who was there? What's the manifest? But Brian, chances 1 being least likely, 10 being most likely. Will we learn of other celebrities that were at these freak-offs?
Yeah, I think you've got an 8 or a 9 for a likelihood you're going to hear about it. Why? Because there are going to be more indictments coming down, Laura. That's an important point here, because he's being charged with racketeering and conspiracy. You're going to have, well, let's start on the inner circle. You're going to have former bodyguards. You can possibly have former musicians that he was with. You've got personal assistants that are going to be, they're already talking about this. Some of those are likely to be charged. And then guess what? If you've got some music moguls that are sending women over to these alleged freak-offs, then you've got some top people that are going to start crumbling too, because they're all part of what's called this criminal enterprise.
Before her death, Diddy's ex-wife Kim Porter allegedly wrote a memoir that detailed all of Diddy's crimes and talked about how Diddy was running the entire operation. Now this memoir, along with 8 of Diddy's tapes, has been handed over to the FBI by Courtney Burgess, one of Kim Porter's friends. Courtney is being subpoenaed in a federal criminal trial, and the tapes he presented have allegedly been played in front of a grand jury. Kim Porter gave these tapes to Courtney because she knew that her life was in danger.
And those statements include descriptions of what the witness says he saw on those tapes. So I asked him about that, and he answered what he could, given the limitations imposed on him after testifying before the grand jury. Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8 celebrities, how many of them were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
This is going to be all speculation. I just want to preface it by he wouldn't know if they were. Right.
Sure.
Appear to
Let
be.
me rephrase it.
Based on, yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs, how many of them appeared to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appear to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims
They
or
victims.
were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were all 8 were victimized,
Yeah,
meaning
victim.
this was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it, but they was doing it.
Is your client fearful if Diddy does get out?
As you know, I represent other clients, actual victims who have sued Mr. Combs, Diddy, in civil court, and all of them are very apprehensive about their safety if he were to be granted bond. I am confident in the court. I am sure that the court will remain with their previous decision of no bond. I feel like the judge only gave this let me think about it just to not make it as obvious. But I have all the confidence in the world and the federal court and the state of New York that they will remain keeping Diddy under no bond and that all of the victims in this case will be able to proceed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I mean, you don't just represent this man, you represent other alleged victims too and people involved. Have there been any threats made against any of your clients?
There have been threats from people on the internet, but not from, at least what we don't know, from Diddy to be directly. So my clients have, Mr. Burgess has received several death threats. My client, Mrs. Parham, has been receiving threats, but we don't know if they're just regular people from the internet or if they're actually people who were sent by Diddy.
Do you have any idea where the threats are coming from? I mean, have you done any investigation?
Well, most of the investigation leads us to a lot of burner accounts on Instagram, and we're trying to now sift through possibly working with law enforcement to try to get subpoenas to determine the IP addresses of where those threats were emanating.
So, okay, interesting. We know that the cease and desist letter has now come. Has there been any other pressure of any kind that you or your clients have felt to stop talking?
In general, I feel that the gag order, when we talk about that, Mark Agnifilio wrote about me specifically, and also all of the other plaintiffs in the civil lawsuits to try to have all of us gagged. There's pressure every day that is continuing to talk about this is putting not only our lives in jeopardy, but could be potentially used against us in a gag order.
Diddy had a habit of abusing people and wanted to make them feel humiliated. In the early 2000s, he allegedly raped a 13-year-old autistic girl too. This girl, now a mother of two, has decided to file a case against Diddy and Jay-Z. The woman claims that Diddy raped her along with Jay-Z at an after-party following the 2000s MTV Video Music Awards in New York City.
You should always advocate for yourself and be a voice for yourself. You should never let what somebody else did ruin or run your life.
A 38-year-old mother from Alabama who has filed a lawsuit accusing Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z of raping her when she was 13 years old is speaking out to NBC News for the first time. She asked us not to reveal her identity.
What made you want to come forward and talk today?
Because I think that I've been quiet long enough about what I've been through, and it's been hard enough to be quiet, but it's a chapter of my life that I'd like to close.
You weren't scared to be all alone?
No, with having autism is like feeling like you live your life in a shatterproof gerbil ball. The world's on fire. The fire is inside the ball with you, but there's no way for you to get out.
In addition to having autism, the woman says she suffered a head injury. The night of the 2000s VMAs, she says a friend drove her from Rochester, New York to Manhattan, a more than 5-hour drive. Her attorney provided NBC News with the name of the friend who has since died. The woman says she spoke to Combs' limo driver who offered her a ride to an after party.
I stumbled upon Diddy's driver who told me that I was exactly what Diddy was looking for.
What did you think when he said that to you?
I thought it meant that I was just pretty.
She went to a White House, she says, where she spoke to musicians Benji Madden and his brother.
I'm talking to Benji Madden about his tattoo because, I have about his tattoo that's the Last Supper because I have a religious background. So it was just something to talk about.
At the after party, she says she had a drink that made her feel woozy. Then she says Combs and Carter took turns raping her while a female celebrity watched.
JC comes in and rapes me. He at that point I was fighting, trying to get away from him, and he put his hand over my mouth and told me to stop it, cut the
After the alleged rape, she says she ran to a gas station where she called her father, who picked her up and drove her home.
We rode home in silence. He didn't ask me what happened. He didn't ask me what I did or where I was.
It seems like the walls are closing in on some of Hollywood's most powerful players. From shocking revelations about Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore's alleged involvement to Diddy's unraveling empire, the truth is finally coming to light. As more victims and witnesses step forward, this scandal is shaping up to be one of the most explosive in Hollywood history. What do you think about these allegations? Are Ashton and Demi preparing to turn on Diddy to save themselves? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.